welcome to So Easy. I am so excited to have you here today because I assume if you're watching, you're a Star Wars fan like me and looking forward very much to the release of the new films. So I've been jumping about going, oh, when's it coming, and looking at all the trailers, and we're also planning to have a Star Wars movie weekend where I'm going to watch all of the films back to back and catch up so that I'm ready to go to the cinema and see the new plot. So I've been making an R2D2 apron. Here he is, little fella, beep beep. So it's a little thing of what we're going to have a look at today, and I hope you'll follow along. It's going to be not too difficult, it's actually quite fun to make, and as you can see it's pretty fun to wear at the end. So let's get started. So let's start by looking at the materials that we'll need. You'll need some heat and bond or an alternative fusible web. It's like a sheet of adhesive that we're going to use to stick fabrics together. These are the fabrics I've got here for my main apron. I've got some cotton twill, so I've got a nice bright white. I've also got a mid grey colour here, and I've got a navy blue. So if you want to, you can just make the apron in the white. You don't need the other colours, but you can use them if you want to, and I'll show you as I go through what I'm going to do with mine. And then also you'll need some colours to make your applique design. So we need a little scrap of just a plain black, a small scrap of red, a little bit of this mid blue colour, which is kind of like basically it's an R2D2 blue, and then I've also got this, which is like a shiny space age kind of silver, but if you can't get something like that, then you can also use a light grey cotton, and that is going to work just fine. Then you'll need, of course, your pattern download. I'm just going to assemble mine now, and you'll need an erasable fabric marker. Okay, let's get started, and we'll cut out the main parts for our apron first. Let's just have a look at our pattern piece. Your pattern piece is going to all be assembled together and it will come out life size, so that'll be the finished size of your pattern. And if we look around the outside, you have a solid line, and that's where you should cut out your pattern and use that to cut your fabric. We also have a dotted line here running around the inside at 1 inch from the edge, and when we finish our apron we're going to be turning our edges, and so our dotted line here, this will be our finished size and the area that we'll be working within. Also up at the top here there's another dotted line, and if you want to make your whole apron with a white background, then you don't have to worry about the dotted line, you just make it all in white and cut it as one piece. If however you want to make like the dome part of R2D2 up at the top just here, if you want to make this in a separate grey colour, you can either applique or fuse a piece of grey fabric over the top up to this line, or what I'm going to do is I've got my two pieces of fabric, so I've got the white and the grey, and I'm going to cut my two pieces separately and join them here so that my apron will be in two pieces. I'll have grey from this part up, and then I'll have white from that part down. As we also look at all these other pieces, these are going to be your applique pieces that you'll cut out, and again they've got letters on them. So BL stands for blue, BK stands for black, red is obviously just red, GR is grey, or if you have it you can use silver, and WH is the white areas, and we don't applique the white. Actually what we're going to do is just sew around the lines in those areas to make our shapes. So I'll get started. I'm going to use the pattern piece to cut out my fabric and join across the top at this point here so that I've got my apron base, and then we'll get started with the fun stuff. So the top grey part of my apron is now sewn onto the bottom white part and finished, and I've just been round for the first time and taken a 1/2 inch seam allowance and pressed it towards the wrong side all the way round top, bottom and sides of our apron. So we need to add some ties around the neck and around your waist, so I'm just going to pop this to one side for now. Let's have a look at the ties. So I just cut some strips of the navy fabric, or lighter blue if you like, or white if you want it to, whichever colour. I cut my strips 2.5 inches wide and then folded them in half and sewed with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Then I gave it a good press and just top stitched along both sides and ended up with a great big long tube. Now turning a tube of fabric often isn't very easy when it's quite narrow like this, so there's a quick and easy way that you can do it, and I'll provide you with a link. You'll need a piece of pipe, some plastic tube and just a wooden dowel, and then you can whip through turning this tube of fabric really easily. So once you have your long piece of fabric, first of all I'm going to cut some neckties. So I've cut mine 24 inches long for the neck. You cut yours whichever length you think is going to suit you best, and where the raw edge is, I've just turned it over to the inside and zigzagged over that raw edge, so it gives a nice little neat tab and also secures the end of the fabric just there. So now if we bring our apron back, we can start to add those ties in place. So here's the top corner of the apron. This is my first half-inch fold which I've pressed, and then on the sides here, the diagonal part, just fold it again and put another couple of clips, because we're going to fold it again so that these raw edges will be hidden and you'll have a nice smooth finish. But when we do the neck up here, we need to add in our ties. So I've folded so I can get a little guideline, and then where the fold is just here, so just in from the edge, I'm just going to add my neck tie just here, lining it up with the raw edge, and then when I fold, as I fold this over, that raw edge will get caught in here, and the tie still stays up to the top, but when we stitch from the across the edge, we're going to catch that tie just there, and then we'll also just reinforce here too. So that's basically how it's going to work. Add that there. When you fold to press the second time, fold it under like that, and then we'll sew around the edge close to this fold, and that will catch the tie. So we do the same here and over on this other side for the other part of the neck. And then of course we have our waist points over here, and we'll do exactly the same. So where this is going to be turned in like this and like this, again just add your tie in just here, and when you fold it in like that, it will be caught. You fold it back out to the side and then stitch through all layers, and that makes that nice and well caught in this point here. And obviously make sure that if you do it just down from the fold on one side, that on the other side of the apron that you do it at the same point. Okay, so I'm now going to do that with my neck ties and my waist ties, and then I'm going to continue to fold these edges all the way around and then sew them, and then the base of our apron will be completed. Now the base of my apron is completed, the ties are all on, and we're all ready to get on now with some fun stuff. So I'm just going to put that off to one side. Okay, bring back in part of my template here. So this is our applique template, and we're going to use this with our heat and bond to make all these little fabric shapes which we can stick onto our apron. Let me get my heat and bond over. Here we go. So there are two types of the heat and bond. There's the heat and bond ultra hold, I think it is, which they say you can just iron on and it doesn't need to be sewn. Or there's an ultra heat and bond light, which hasn't got so much adhesive, and if you use that on the back of your fabrics, then you do need to make sure that you satin stitch or sew around the edge of your pieces. For mine, it's going to be more of a novelty apron. I'm not going to be putting it through a lot of heavy wash, I don't think, so I'm just going to use the ultra hold, and if I do find later on that the edges are coming adrift, I can always take it back to the sewing machine later and go around the edges just to neaten those up. So this is my ultra hold. You can see it's kind of glossy and it's got bumps on the one side. The other side is paper. Basically this is a whole sheet of glue which we can iron to the back of the fabric. So it's transparent, so you can add it over your template like this, and you can see the pieces through enough so that you can trace them. So what I would do is, say I've got a lot of blue here, so I'd trace all of the blue straight away. So I do a piece like this and just go through. I would use my ruler actually to get some nice squares just there. Where's my little ruler? Here he is. And then I transfer all of these markings over to my heat and bond. These all line up, so I can just do one big line there. Same here, these are all the same, one big line, and then split it out. And I can see the pieces that I need. And by doing them like this, it's going to save a little bit of time and save some fabric, because we want to have our pieces nice and close together so that we don't waste too much fabric. Just there. And then once I've done them, okay, so I would give them a tick. I've got those pieces and they're done. So you cut out your little sheet, and you can do as much or as little as you want all at the same time. I'm just going to work in this small piece like this. So this is now glue, so I can wipe that on. And then you take this to your fabric. Here's some I've already done. So you take the heat and bond and you iron it to the reverse side of your fabric. Now for this pattern we're using solid, so you know, right side, wrong side doesn't really matter. But if you're using one which has a print on it, then stick your heat and bond to the wrong side. Follow the instructions on the packet. Generally you turn off your steam, press the heat and bond down onto the fabric, and then just put your iron down on top, and it only takes a few seconds for it to bond. And then you leave it there nice and flat until it cools. Then you can cut out all of your little fabric pieces. And it's nice and quick and easy. Just snip, snip, snip. And then we can put all of these pieces to one side. I've already got a lot already. Now as you cut, you'll probably find that they're going to curl up. Some of the longer pieces especially will, but you don't have to worry about that, because when you take the backing paper off to stick them down later on, they will suddenly flatten out again, and certainly when you iron them to the fabric they'll flatten out. So if you're cutting out all your pieces and they're all curling up, then no need to worry about it. So I'm going to finish cutting out all of my blue, and then we've also got the black and the red. And I'm also going to try mine with a little bit of that silver to see how that works. I've never tried the heat and bond on a fabric like that before, so it may work, it may not, but we'll give it a try. And once I've got all of my pieces ready, I'll come back and we'll start laying them out on our apron. So here are all my curly applique pieces, and the next step is to peel the backing paper off, and you can throw that away, and then lay out according to your pattern diagram here all of your pieces. Now if we look at the top, the applique is actually in reverse, so these are the pieces that you've cut out, but when you lay them out in reverse. So all of the ones that are circles and rectangles, they're exactly the same as they are on here. So to make it easy, I suggest you just lie those out exactly the same so that they match your template, and everything there will work out fine. These pieces up at the top which are shaped, so here, 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 and this one, when you cut them with the applique, you've added it to the wrong side, so those pieces are going to be in reverse, and therefore you can see, if you look at this example, here it's pointing in that direction, it points off that way. Because mine is in reverse, it points off that way. And the same with the three top pieces, I've just reversed those. But these are the only ones. These ones that are shaped, you can reverse those, and everything else you can lay out according to your map. So if you set everything out nice and neatly, make sure everything's nice and square. It's best to do it in small sections at a time. I've just done one larger section here just so that you can see what it's going to look like, and I can talk through the right way and the reverse way to do it. But it'd be better to do small pieces at a time, and then you take it over to the ironing board, lay them out actually on the board itself so that you don't have to move them and then just fuse with your iron. So I've got to take mine over to the ironing board now, so mine will all jumble up a little bit, but then I can lay them out according to my diagram and fuse. So once I've done that, we'll have a look at the lower section. So here's my top part completed now, and I cannot tell you how I have been jumping around and going, oh my god, and getting so excited. I've also watched the Star Wars trailer this morning and got a little bit emotional I think I was born at exactly the right time to be a perfect Star Wars fan. So R2D2, his top is anyway completed. So let's have a look at the bottom section. Okay, I'll try and contain my excitement. So here is the bottom section of our apron, and I've cut out the blue and either grey or silver pieces and added them onto the template so you can see. And then we've got all of these other areas marked which are white. Now how you deal with those is up to you. If you wanted to, cut a white applique shape and then stitch it in place or along these lines with some black stitching, and that will actually give a little bit more dimension. But what I'm going to try and do is skip that and just try it with the stitching, so we'll see how we get on. So I've got all my pieces cut out and I'm happy with those. Now what I want to do, I need to mark the stitching lines onto the front of my apron. So I'm actually going to cut out all of these white squares nice and accurately so I can use those to transfer my lines onto the apron. So I'll cut them all out now, and then we'll end up back with this with lots of holes in it. Here's the template with all of the white areas cut out now. I just used a ruler and a craft knife, and I'm now going to lay this over back on top of the apron. We will need to get some kind of erasable fabric marker. Lie this out nice and square. And we've got these dotted guidelines on the side of the pattern. So the dotted guidelines should pretty much line up with the edge of your apron. So that will help you keep things hopefully nice and square. Lie it out nice and flat. And then I'm just going to put a few weights around the side because I don't want anything shifting while I'm working. Okay, so let's get to drawing. So with my fabric marker, I've now drawn around here. So I've got rectangles on my fabric like this that I can follow. The only exception is the small piece which is in the bottom corner over here, and this is actually on R2 himself, it's a gridded area. So I've drawn lines and I'm going to draw lines on the grid there and follow those in that bottom corner. So now I'm just going to take this over to the sewing machine. I've got some scraps of the fabric left over. I'm going to audition to see which stitches look best. I've got a triple stretch stitch which kind of goes forward and then back and then forward and back and forward and back, and it creates quite a thick stitch, and I want my stitching to show up nice and well. So I'll probably use that one, but I'll see what other decorative stitches I've got. And I suggest you do the same, see which stitch looks best for you. You may also want to use just a narrow zigzag stitch if that's going to give something nice and bold. But practice drawing a few rectangles on some scraps of fabric and see what looks best. So I have the lines all stitched on. There's just one patch down here. I forgot to do the little grid lines, so I'm going to go back and do those in a minute. And now we can add in all the remaining applique pieces and stick those on. And our R2 is really coming together. And there we go. A few more pieces and he'll be done. So I'm going to just finish sticking on the rest of my applique pieces. And then, oh, a few more there, these ones too. And then finish out these grid lines, and then we'll come back and take another look at him. So I've now put on my finishing touches, my applique is all finished, got all of my sewing done, I've added my little grid down at the bottom there. So my little R2D2 apron is completed. If you are a big Star Wars fan, I hope you've enjoyed watching this and that you'll go on to make one of your own. If you aren't a Star Wars fan, you've probably tuned out a long time ago. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope I'll see you at So Easy again soon. Bye bye. Oh, and may the Force be with you.